Within the checklist, we've separated out 3 areas that tend to be obstacles for people when they're giving feedback to someone from a different culture. First, power distance. In some cultures, the difference between the power of a boss and the power of an employee is a very large distance. In others, there's less power distance. In a low power distance culture, it's common for bosses, for employees, for the big boss to all relate together. And in a culture like this, you might see the head of a department get feedback from his boss, but also from other heads of departments, for people that report to him, and even from those that are lowest in the hierarchy. For someone in a high distance culture, this may be unthinkable, both for an employee to give feedback to his boss, as well as a boss to request feedback from his employee. Second, direct and indirect communication. In some cultures, people prefer to give feedback directly, straight and to the point. In other cultures, people prefer to give feedback indirectly and communicate that way in general. The story that I told earlier about my friend as we were coming back from the hospital, he actually was adapting his communication style for me. If he was speaking to someone else from Albania, he probably would have told a story, as I often heard him do. And the moral of the story would have been to communicate something to the person across from him. But he would tell the story to save face for the person. In direct cultures, people need to be very careful. So if you're a manager and you're from a culture where direct communication is valued and you're working with people who prefer more indirect communication, you need to be very careful about the type of feedback you request. We strongly recommend speaking with other managers to find out culturally appropriate ways of getting feedback from your employees so that you don't ask them to do something they feel like it's impossible to do. Finally, appropriate expression of emotion. In some cultures, it's completely appropriate to express very strong emotion in public. In other cultures, it's not. You can imagine the type of misunderstanding that might occur when someone from a culture where it's appropriate to express strong emotion gives feedback in that manner, and someone who is from a culture where it's not appropriate to express strong emotion is the one that receives that feedback. So power distance, direct, indirect communication, and appropriate expression of emotion, those are 3 areas to keep in mind. You have the checklist with you. So as we wrap up this section, here are 3 things that you can do ahead of your next feedback conversation if you're communicating cross-culturally. First, use the checklist. Second, remember previous conversations that you've had with the person who will be in front of you. And third, try to talk with other managers, people who are in authority over you, and ask them how they give and receive feedback in that culture.